Welcome to Set and Forget Traders, where precision meets patience. This isn't guesswork, it's strategy, structure, and the smart money's roadmap. If you're tired of chasing trades, strap in. We'll show you how to trade like the banks and not against them. If the market noise has been costing you money and peace of mind, you are in the right place. Hit the subscribe button. This is where structure meets mastery. Welcome to Set and Forget Traders again. So officially, we are going to have the analysis for EURUSD. We check the month, how the month has been versus what we have in our portfolio. So looking at the month of July, we're reporting that the monthly candle is an inside bar, but it has really gone 90% pullback. So meaning the buyers have taken their profit, all right, on the monthly candle, and the price dropped more than 3,430 points. So let's dive into the demand of the supply, so that we might have our exclusive insight of what to expect. So again, this week was one of a week, because when you look at the Monday candlestick, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is today, and today is the last day of the month of July. So tomorrow will be August 1st, and what you're seeing this week, we had a very crazy turn of events, but in line with our analysis, this chart, demand chart, allows us to know where the buyers are placing their orders and where they're going to take their profits at. All right. And the supply chart, which comes after this analysis, will help us know where sellers are making their entry and where they're going to take their profits at. All right. So we have two analyses, the demand and the supply. And you'll be able to notice that this week's supply zone did a very crazy release of information before it happened. All right. But first, let's start with the demand chart. And in respect, the demand chart accords to all the buyers who are present in the market and are really trying to push the price up, which include the European Central Bank. So the existing demand level was right here at the pivot demand at 1.6032, where you could see the last retracement happening, and buyers really attempted to concede and push price up and above that pivot zone. But shortly on Monday, just one candle was enough to close below the pivot, and when price closes below the pivot, be rest assured that the next zone is on target, which was the demand zone. All right. Yesterday we had the Fed interest. They didn't change the interest rates, but it remained the same. So the market went bearish, really. So this week we have seen more than 3,490 points drop in price of the euro exchange rate to dollar. So this chart is allowing us to know where buyers should be and where they should take their profits at. So concurrently, price is below the demand zone, 1.1447 and 1.14786 being the proximal line. So our analysis is in this two way. So our trading zone will be this range. All right, will be from this one pivot to the next pivot. So allow me to change this color to green, because that's where we anticipate we're gonna make money. So you are likely to see the prices at the midpoint, this small line here. All right, so the price is at the midpoint, and that's where it's closing at, exactly at the midpoint. This is crazy. I'm allowing you to know what the institutional are doing. We are allowing you to see through the lens of loss, how justice is carried in the whole world. And the European Central Bank versus the Federal Reserve, they have the obligation to consolidate all the orders existing at the market so that it might favor and it might be under the law. It should not be outside the law. So what we expect is that if price goes up, all right, let me zoom this side this way. So our first target will be to see price going up into the pivot at 1.16032, and then if it closes below, we'll push price. Now we'll sell at the pivot and push price down. So we'll have a trade of worth how many points? Worth 1,800. And then when we push it back below, we will be trying to look for 3,500. So that's around 5,000 points worth of trading. So exactly, you can see the price is at the midpoint of where the buyers need to take price to and where the buyers need. So it's a decision they'll need to make tonight ahead of tomorrow's NFP, and then they decide, will they push high or will they push low? All right, but the buyers are aligned at the demand zone. Remember, buyers are just above the demand zone, and you might have your first buy stop there or your buy stop there, and we will concede to take our stop loss, just some points, maybe half of the distance to the next pivot, which is around 1.12466. all right, so that's a very clean trade that we're showing you in front of your eyes. And this is EURUSD. Sorry, we were talking about EURUSD or the central bank of, it was the European Union Central Bank and the Federal Reserve. We are getting into the minds so that we can regulate price with them in line with the laws. So next we check out the supply chart, and in accordance to the supply chart on Monday, all right, you see this Monday, this was on 28th of July, the sellers were given a very perfect entry for them to short the market, and that's what they did. This is the daily time frame, and you see on Monday we had a very big drop of 1,653 points in one single day. Definitely that was a very big volume for somebody who didn't know what's going to happen. And if you think the market was going to come up again, look on Tuesday again, market dipped, and now the sellers took their partials profit at the supply zone 1.15203. That's where the sellers took their first partials. And then the next day we had the Federal Reserve to announce their interest rates of the US dollar. And since the US dollar is the supply chart, they had to push the price lower, right? As you can see, and that's why the price fell. So this chart allows us to know where the sellers need to take their profits and where they're going to enter the market if the price is going to go up. All right, and with that understanding, you're able to decipher and understand that if the buyers are going to have a buy limit order at this level, let me show you, at this level pivot, means they're allowing sellers to make an entry to at the pivot or the supply zone. All right, so these two entries are well in order, because buyers can make an entry, they can take profits, because when the price will be pushing up, the buyers will take their profits at 1.6032, and sellers will be making their entry at 1.6251. So alternatively, sellers can fast sell after buyers have taken their profits. All right, and in the same way, because the buyers need to push price into the buyers need to exit the market and place their buy limit orders at 1.12466. You can imagine we are not making an entry for the next 1,824 drop in price until price reaches the pivot 1.12466. 1.2166, and then we'll see sellers will already have taken their profits, right? Because the supply zone is way below the demand zone. So sellers will have taken profits and buyers will make an entry. So in this case scenario, if sellers take profit and there is a reduction in volume, means buyers are going to be left out and the market won't make an entry into the market. So what do? We first place our buy limit. We first place our buy limit at where the sellers are going to take their profit at 126.29. That's the second order block, because that's the line. All right, so the proximal line of the supply zone is 1.13036. All right, and the dasher line is 1.12629, because that would be our first buy limit after the sellers have taken their profits. All right, so you have a very clean structure of how the institution are making their entries. All right, so if buyers push, we're going to push them up to 1.16251 and sell below. That's how we caught all our entries. You can remember on July, this is where the month started, and we very well knew there's something cooking. This is where the month started, and this is the month ended. So in review, the supply chart could allow us to first take our first supply orders of the month, take our profits, and leave the market. Because you see, after we took our profits, market pushed up and retraced back into the supply zone. Then we made our second entry, completing us for the rest of the month. All right, you can see the monthly candle really started at our order block. All right, it really started at our level. This is the first day, and we've been having this demand and the supply charts for the last 5 years, because we understood laws are inbuilt principles that assist, that rules, that instructs the product or instructs the user of how to operate the product. So this is how the month of July has been for us, and it has been worth how much trade? 4,080 points worth of trade. So this month we might anticipate a pullback back of price, but it will have to fall up to 1.162. Let me show you what to expect this month. This month, if the sellers do not push higher, we expect something close to this. Yeah, we expect something worth like this. We expect sellers to either take profit or buyers to push price, and then price will come falling down. Stay tuned. Let's complete the analysis, then we can call it a month or a day. On the retailers moving average, on the monthly, price has closed exactly at the support. You can see this is the retailers moving average, and price has closed exactly at the support of the moving average, and then the next support will be at 1.11989. all right, on the weekly time frame, price is bearish, and the first support will be just above our buy limit orders. On the demand chart, it means the sellers are still pushing price lower, and the first support is at 1.13764. Yeah. On the institutional moving average, on the monthly time frame, we are able to see that price is yet to hit the support. All right. On the weekly time frame, again, you can see this moving average stopped buyers from pushing higher than the last week's closing price. It was exactly, and this is the institutional moving average, which assists us to know how the institutional are placing their order blocks. All right, so the weekly is looking as close on the support. The weekly is yet to hit, but currently price has hit the support, so you expect a rejection back up, and you can see it's in line with what we are expecting.